It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Oh, let's review.
We'll analyze the scene
Sounds holly jolly to me.
before it's over. Let's begin.
Bum.
Bum.
Yes, that's right, folks. Since the holiday season is upon us, we thought the best way to celebrate and get into the holiday spirit would be with some holiday reviews.
12 to be exact. Decoratively divided into 4 categories for your Yuletide pleasure.
So, silver up those bells, lights, and go out and build a snowman to join us as we get into some seasonal shenanigans.
Woo!
All right, Dragon, we're kind of this is an interesting one for us. We're kind of this was a last minute addition to the roster here. It actually kind of came out of a discussion that we had sort of impromptu live on air when we talked through Olaf's Frozen Adventure, and we realized kind of the similarities between the plot layout of Olaf's Frozen Adventure and Frozen Ever After, the e-ticket dark ride at Epcot. And through that, we kind of decided instead of doing a traditional holiday special, we'd create a holiday overlay. So this is within the holiday special category, but it's more of a holiday special for a theme park attraction, which is something we've never attempted before here on Seasonal Shenanigans. But my God, we're going to give it a shot. Dragon and I put our heads together. We have some concept art for you guys, and we're going to go over our proposal for the holiday overlay entitled Frozen After Ringing in the Season.
Yeah. Yes,
All
our
right,
first
so go ahead. Sorry.
first overlay pitch, if you will.
Indeed. I'm pretty excited about this one actually, Dragon. I think we did some good work on this. It's nice to get back into the actual armchair imagineering swing of things on this channel again. So, Dragon, I want to start with some thesis statements about how you feel about the baseline attraction. I have kind of like a soliloquy, if you will, for it. So, why don't you go first? Just base. I know you haven't seen it in person, but just based on a video you've seen of it.
Well, I've always had a great soft spot and intrigue into all things Frozen. So I was when I heard this thing was coming, I was like, oh boy, I can't wait to see a ride POV. Just gonna get a glimpse of what that ride's gonna be about. Watched it, and was like, oh my god, look at the I was very impressed by it. Like specifically the projection mapping on the audio animatronics, like Olaf, like the Olaf walking, talking, singing, dancing, all that looked great. And kind of the set pieces, kind of a little sampling of the Frozen film. But again, not just like a recap. It's more so a kind of a again, it is sort of set after the movie. It's kind of set in that kind of Frozen fever space of what's happening. After the kingdom has been opened up. It was the anniversary, like a year after, I believe. Well,
Uh-huh.
basically, I think it's a year or so after the events of Frozen, so the King's being opened, reopened, a big kind of winter festival sort of setting. Yeah, it's all really nice, real simple, nice, and it kind of gives you kind of the greatest hits of Frozen. I received it quite warmly. I remember when we talked about it, I was like, oh boy, I was just kind of wowed by. I was like, oh boy, so yeah, it's kind of nice and it was nice and faithful to it. I felt.
Yeah. So this was one of the attractions that I feel kind of fell victim to my time last Disney World trip back in February before my the last one I just got back from. And I only got to do it once, and it was on a very rushed day through Epcot. I only got to experience Epcot uh, fully for one day. The other times I went to Epcot on that trip were like to do like one or two things a piece, like for a couple hours in the evening on a couple nights. But we only had one day to kind of devote all our time to Epcot, and this was what we had a fast pass for it, but we were just kind of going through everything so fast, Reagan, because we had this mentality that we needed to get everything done. We need to like boom, 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 see everything. And that's simply not the way that Epcot's meant to be experienced. So I wasn't crazy about this one when I first wrote it back in March. But the reason why I wasn't crazy about it is that I felt like on a base level, like at a surface glance, just based on one ride through and not really spending time in the Norway pavilion that it's surrounded by, I I didn't really think it fit in well with the World Showcase or Epcot itself. I felt like if they would have built this in the Magic Kingdom, it would be perfectly fit in with that park's vibe. But I felt like it was a little bit too I don't know, it was just a little bit too on the safe side to really work well in Epcot, and I didn't really feel like it represented the cultural side of Epcot that well. I gotta say, after my 6 day trip a couple weeks ago, and having a chance to really explore Epcot fully for a couple pretty full days at that park, my tune is almost completely changed around on this thing. I'm actually I actually think they did a wonderful job with the Norway Pavilion and tying it all together with Frozen, and I think the whole thing kind of flows together very naturally. I think the aesthetics of the Norway Pavilion are beautiful and really kind of give way to the Frozen setting. The transition from the ride into the rest of the pavilion and the shops and everything works really well. But Dragon, I've got a personal little antidote for you that it kind of sums up the moment where I fell in love with the presence of Frozen in Epcot. All right. So it's the running to the bulls when Epcot opens. It's when Epcot opens, basically people head for one of three rides. They head for Test Track on the Test Track on the left, Soarin' on the right, and then Frozen is like straight ahead. As you get into the World Showcase. And of course, I headed for Frozen, and so did about 1,000 other people. And as I was walking into the Frozen queue, Dragon, as I was walking into the Frozen queue, I passed this bakery that's right to the left as you enter Norway. And I just happened to time it right that I was walking by this bakery right as they were doing this little adorable little opening ceremony for the bakery, where it was super simple, but it just kind of warmed my heart in a way. It's like, yeah, that's what Disney parks are all about, man. It's like the little details that count. So basically, what I saw two cast members, and of course, the cast members in World Showcase that are all from their respective countries. So take Norwegian cast members. They raise up this little gong like bell, right? And they ring the bell, and then the bell kind of chimes throughout the area, and then they loudly announce the bakery is now open. And Dragon, my God, I don't know what it was about that little simplicity, right? That little pleasantry to open up the day and to start everything out. It's like a ceremony that there's no reason they need to do, but you know what? I bet it's culturally significant. I bet in the real Norway they do stuff like that to open up bakeries.
It's kind of the Norwegian version of "It's time to make the donuts."
Basically, and it warmed my heart, Dragon. It genuinely warmed my heart. It really did. I know it sounds corny. I know it sounds simple. I'm just like, yeah, like I was so in the moment that it's on one of my favorite memories of the trip. I was so just like, all right, like I'm here. It feels like a living, breathing community at Epcot. So basically, long story short, after going on Frozen twice because I went on it with no wait, when I did it for rope drop, and then I decided to do it again when I got out because it was just a 20-minute wait, which is 20 minutes is a hell of a lot better than the 60-minute wait that it's usually posted at. And so after spending about 30 minutes in Frozen, I do in fact go over to the bakery, because I'm just like, my God, those freaking bakery people sounded so pleasant, and I want to check out this bakery. And Dragon, I was expecting it to be packed because I know that the French bakery in the World Showcase, which is the only other quick service location that's open for breakfast, all the other stuff at the World Showcase opens at 11. I was expecting this place to be packed because the French bakery is always packed. And when I walked in, Dragon, I swear to God, it was like a little hole in the wall bakery that no one was in, and it felt very intimate. And I had one cast member help me pick out a pastry. Like, he went through a couple. Oh yes, we have the moonberries in this pastry. The moonberries are very good. And I'm like, all right, I'll get a troll horn. And a troll horn was basically kind of like a, you know, this horn of plenty. Or no, I'm not describing it right. It's basically just like a little pastry puff that's shaped like a horn with a moonberry filling. And Dragon, then I had the most pleasant interaction with the cast member that rang me up. Where he saw that I got the troll horn. He's like, "Oh yes, you know that the moonberries are only grown in Norway." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I want to try it out." Oh yes, have you tried the school bread? Dragon, I swear to God, it was like I was having a conversation with Wander and Oaken. All right. I don't want to stereotype these people, but it was the most delightful fucking cast member interaction, man.
Wonder if they're trained to speak like Oaken.
Yeah, it's like it's like, all right, yeah, I'll have to come back and try the school bread. And and then Dragon, I sat down, I ate my troll horn, and it was delicious. It was honestly one of the best snacks I had on the trip. And I just kind of took in the Norway scenery. I was like, you know what? This all blends together really well. And I'm actually very glad that they have that Frozen ride here because it draws people not only just to Norway, which honestly, Dragon was a far more immersive country than I gave it for on my last trip when I was just kind of breezing through it just to get my fast pass through just get my fast pass for Frozen. I really didn't see any of the other country. I never went in the bakery. I never took in the details on my last trip. Really just experiencing the pavilion for all it has to offer. I was like, this is great. This is awesome. And not only does the Frozen ride bring children back into the Norway pavilion, by extension, Dragon, just because of the way the World Showcase is laid out, it brings families into all of those countries. You know what I mean? China's right the next one over. In China, you might be walking by and catch an acrobatic show or the Chinese New Year dragon puppet show or and that's just the reason why I love Epcot, man. That's the reason why Epcot might be my favorite theme park on the planet. And you know what, Dragon? I completely changed my stance on that. I feel like Frozen is a perfect kind of gateway drug to the cultural experience that is Epcot, and for that, I wholeheartedly embrace it now.
All right.
No, that was a bit of a soliloquy, but I really I felt strongly that I had to kind of change my tune around. I told you on the plan on the when we laid out my battle plan that one of my goals was to appreciate Frozen more, and I definitely did, Dragon. I definitely did.
So, in a matter of relaying it back to Frozen, you would your heart was melted by pleasant pastry salesmanship.
But yes, exactly. But does that not sound like the most pleasant cast member interaction ever?
It does. I'm not knocking it. I'm just putting it in context here. But yeah,
it was wonderful.
I'm just now imagining this ridiculous thing of you just kind of basically it's just kind of the frozen heart and just like I'm callous to this, man. I've been burned by this before. I'm frozen in the I'm frozen in a state of just of static unchangeability. And then this lovely Oaken-esque cast member comes up to you and offers you a pastry, almost like the Ronald McDonald snowman commercial. Offers you a pastry that warms your heart, and it's like, thank you. Like one of those moments.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically how it went down. All right, Dragon. So, do you want to kind of set the stage after my soliloquy? Set the stage for what we're getting ourselves into here.
Sure. So again, folks, so Tiki and I have collaborated on a pitch, which is not does not usually happen often. It's going to happen with kind of the big deals, kind of a two-man operation sort of thing.
Honestly, I feel like these collaborations should happen more and more. Like I feel like it should be a more regular thing, just because it makes the actual podcast go by a lot more smoothly.
You might notice T and I are going to be a little bit more simpatico on things here. We're going to kind of be reading from kind of the same prompt, if you will, and I mean that in the way we thought this through. We've basically, again, thought of a seasonal kind of Olaf's Frozen Adventure for anyone who hasn't seen it for some reason. We covered in seasonal Shenanigans, our previous one a few back. And we, as another one of our specials, and again, oddly enough, again, just by sheer coincidence, again, without, I won't say what they are, I won't spoil them. Let's just say we had other kind of plans for a pitch, which again is kind of the stars aligned. We talked about Olaf's Frozen Adventure, had a good time with it. We kind of figured, yeah, what if there was an Olaf's Frozen Adventure overlay on the existing Frozen attraction? That's essentially what we're working with. So the core ride is still there, but we're adding kind of the seasonal kind of storyline of, it's the Olaf's Frozen Adventure story and kind of the greatest hits of that over top kind of the greatest hits of Frozen that we have as part of the
Right,
usual
but it's
Frozen
not just
ride.
retelling Olaf's Frozen Adventure either.
True.
I mean, in a way, it kind of is. Like, I feel like it's retelling Olaf's Frozen Adventure more closely than the original ride retells Frozen.
It's like you're still gonna want to watch Olaf's Frozen Adventure, but you don't quite necessarily need to appreciate the core. It's kind of like it's not just a recap. It's not a retelling. It's not linear, is what we're saying. It's just kind of it's kind of an amalgamation of kind of moments that guide you down a similar story. So again, it's
Uh-huh,
not saying like you
uh-huh.
can watch like go on this ride, you'll never have to watch that. But it's saying like if you want to glean what that special's about, then watch this. And it's basically kind of a snowman's journey to experience. It's kind of more of it gets to the core root of what Olaf's Frozen Adventure is about, which is about experiencing traditions, and it's kind of feeding into what kind of the Epcot and especially the Norway Pavilion strives to do, which is educate people on kind of the history of Norway, traditions and such. And it's kind of an education on Norway as well as the holidays. So it's kind of fitting into kind of the Epcot framework, as it were, to
Yeah,
go
that's
into.
the thing. I feel like, in a way, this actually fits into the pavilion even more so than Frozen Ever After does.
We're kind of killing a few birds with one stone, if you will, here. Kind of making it all through this one kind of adventure of a ride, which we've, as you can probably tell by now, we've aptly named Frozen Ever
Frozen
After.
Ever After, ringing in the season.
Yeah, it was kind of dawned on us when we were kind of talking over titles because I was just thinking, okay, we're just going to call it Frozen Ever After the overlay or Lost Frozen Adventure. And then we realized, no, it's terrible. We can't just call it that. Then we realized, okay, we got to call it something better.
I think my
And
original idea was like Frozen Ever After Olaf's Holiday Quest or something like that.
I know I was the dummy who came up with Quest, but we started off something that led to Quest, and we just kind of stuck there for a few minutes, and we're just like Olaf's, the Olafian Odyssey or something. I don't know. Regardless, anyway, we kind of no, that wasn't actually one that we considered, but I just kind of ended up thinking that basically for as the ride goes, and kind of the point is the ride as a whole, and as we're going to get to with the queue and such, does center around what kind of kicks off Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which is the Yule Bell. The Yule Bell is a central thing. Ordinarily kind of start to get into the pitch a little bit here. See, ordinarily, the ride is about the Winter Festival, which is basically meeting Elsa after once now we can enter the big ice castle that she created. Am I right in that? Basically, Frozen Ever After, we're the gates are open and we're making our way to Elsa's castle she created during the Let It Go sequence. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah,
Right.
that's spot on.
But essentially, yeah, that's the ordinary premise. That's what the Winter Festival's about. Like, hey, they went through their whole adventure in Frozen. Come check out your Frozen pals. And this version is okay. Instead of the Winter Fest, we're going to take the actual celebration that is an Olaf's Frozen Adventure, the Yule Bell, which basically when the Yule Bell gets rung, it rings in the season, which rings in all the basically it's the start of like kind of like a week or so before Christmas. It's like the start of the week of or whatever you celebrate, like Christmas, Hanukkah, very basically again for like the whole season, like whatever you celebrate, it's kind of like it's December. It's time to start celebrating, folks. You get your traditions in line, do it, you do your kind of your stuff there.
Mm.
Pretty much it. So I guess all that said, you want to just go into the queue?
Yeah, sure. Let me switch the image out really quick.
Yeah, you walk into the Norway Pavilion and you see, and importantly, it's the first change we made is covered in snow. Because last time I noticed the Norway Pavilion is not traditionally covered in snow. It's basically you walk into a snow-covered segment.
Uh-huh.
Then it basically looks the same. It's kind of snow covered instead of seeing like Winter Festival being posted all around the place. You see Yule Bell ringing, like the Yule Bell, come join us at the Yule Bell ceremony, et cetera, all around the place. That's what they're advertising. So you go into the queue, which is Wandering Oaken's trading post.
Okay, well, to be fair, the queue is it's not just Wandering Oaken's trading post. You have that big the main section of this queue is this really annoying set of just a ton of switchbacks. It's like a maze of switchbacks. That's basically the town square.
Right.
And then you go into Wandering Oakens.
Yes. Yes. And you get like decorative lanterns and such, and again holiday decorations, kind of something. Basically, kind of making again, if you're going to do an overlay, you might as well kind of get those kind of switchbacks and kind of the town thing looking kind of a little bit more seasonal, looking a little bit more wintry, especially with Frozen
Uh-huh.
of all things.
And
Let's
then
see.
importantly, in the queue, before we even get to Oaken, we hear one of the big things throughout the queue that gets us kind of excited for the ride is off-screen audio, if you will. Basically, we hear the audio, but we don't see the characters. Where we hear kind of like in the distance Olaf yelling "surprise,"
And
and
you
then off-screen we'll hear different characters like Elsa or Kristoff saying "not yet, Olaf."
Yeah, or maybe like some cameos too of other people, like cast members or whoever's involved in the ride. Not yet off. If you want to really push it, you could have other iconic Disney characters saying "not yet off." But again, let's just for simplicity's sake, again,
I like the
specifically
idea of cast members interacting with it, though. That's good. That's good.
like if like a cast member's walking in front of you, like getting to his post or something, and they're trained to say "not yet, Olaf." they're,
I like that. I like that.
going
Like
their
that would
merry
probably
way.
drive me crazy if I was actually working there, but I like that. That's
The
good.
Pavlovian response, and if anyone says "surprise" to you in your daily life, if you're a cast member, like going to the store or something, says "surprise, I'm here." Not yet, Olaf. Olaf. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm bringing work home with me. Forget everything you heard. It's non-union. I can't tell you that sort of thing here. Forget I said anything. Anyway,
All right.
so in the trading post, you of course it features you going. You've been inside the place. Describe what the folks are saying.
Basically, it's pretty small, but it's just it's just kind of like you see Oaken through the most of the time the sauna window is fogged up, but occasionally Oaken will, like every couple minutes or so, he'll kind of like he'll draw on the fog and then he'll like clear the fog and you can see his face as you see here. And he's just kind of being very pleasant. He's just like, saying his usual Oaken
Mm-hmm.
yoo-hoo, big supper blowout.
And he's advertising things like he's in the sauna. He's out advertising the holiday schwitz, which is in the Lost Frozen Adventure and the big Yule Bell event. But of course, one of the great lines from that, "Yoo-hoo, have you seen an inquisitive magic snowman?" So, and basically inside the place, it looks pretty much like, verbatim for the movie. Again, like kind of a wooden interior, everyone looks pretty much one of them. You see the shelves and everything. And on the shelves and everything, here's a little addition. You see again, they're building they're hyping up the traditions and the aspect of the Yule Bell that's ringing in the season. Why I call it ringing in the season? Well, because we're showing what it's like to ring in the season in Arendelle. So
Uh-huh.
you see on the shelves a lot of Easter eggs and cameo, basically a lot of Easter eggs from Olaf's Frozen Adventure, where Olaf during the that time of year segment, he goes and learns and kind of compiles a list and sampling of all the traditions of the folks of Arendelle, which includes candy canes, scarves, menorahs, dreidels. Again, kind of the educational component, like various different kind of samplings of holidays and kind of like iconography of various holidays, like the little candle crown, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so of course we already mentioned the runner of Olaf saying surprise and such. So
Yeah, yeah.
you board the ride, and once you board the ride and everything, you're on the ride, and the first thing you see is Shaka. No, no, all seriousness. So again, you go on the ride, pretty much same ride vehicle and such. So you're going through, and you see, the ice covered trees and everything from Frozen when you first see Olaf in the film, but of course tailored to Olaf's Frozen Adventure. When you see Olaf, he's holding a fruitcake. Just again,
Yeah, I forgot to work the fruitcake into the concept art. My
and of course,
bad.
so the concept art is very rudimentary, but I think all the key components are there. So again, it's kind of like a loose blueprint approximation of what we're pitching here. We can't get it down perfectly because I mean, who can? So,
I could if I
essentially,
had Photoshop time.
right. But anyway, this is kind of a rough approximation. It'll do the purposes for what we're doing as a pitch here. Again, you sort of like imagine as kind of a pseudo storyboard, if you will.
Uh-huh.
So again, we go on the ride. You see Olaf in kind of the general section through the trees and outside and everything. Basically, he and Sven on his way in Olaf's Frozen Adventure, and they have various kind of kind of reprises of iconic songs from Frozen. In this case, iconic songs from Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which includes one of my favorites, that time of year, which is kind of a delightful song. Where just kind of Olaf's recapping like all the traditions he's gotten and what he's doing it for and everything. And we see I'm sorry, you want to take us through some of this?
Yeah, sure. We see the sleigh, as you can see, with the with all the different things piled onto it, including the sauna from Oaken. And then importantly, kind of in the background, sort of on the walls of the scene, we see a projection mapping of the ugly of the ugly sweater animation that we like so much from the scene.
Yeah, which is one of my favorite things. My favorite visual from Olaf's Frozen Adventure, by the way. I love this sweater, kind of this pattern look. I think the crochet look. It looks great. Yeah, it's kind of getting to kind of the crescendo of it in a way.
And Dragon, I saw the Tower of Terror turn into a giant gingerbread house. Okay, Disney has projection mapping down. Like I have faith in them that they can do projection mapping on anything.
So again, you get the gist here. It's basically okay. You see Olaf and you see Sven. Only real difference is Sven has the sleigh full of traditions behind him, and of course we have some great kind of seasonal patterning around the place. So again, that's kind of and of course different song again, kind of summarizing what the heck was Sven have on his back. Well, he has all these traditions. So again, if you've never seen Olaf's Frozen Adventure, I think it's pretty straightforward to get a sense of what we're doing here. So we're hyping up the traditions. Olaf has traditions, and he's trying to bring these traditions to Elsa and company. It's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we make our way through our old pal Olaf there, and then of course, yes. So then we have Kristoff waiting on kind of the next segment here.
This is your favorite scene, Dragon. This is the one that you just begged me to put in.
Yeah, so again, if I had it my way, I would not have this scene included at all. But to do this right justice, of course, we can't take into account what I want. We got to do what's right for the story and what's right to the kind of the story we're telling and the story we're kind of homaging here with Olaf's Frozen Adventure. So, well, adapting, I guess. So, here's what we have. So, tell them how the ride usually goes.
Well, the ride usually goes with in the spot where we see Kristoff here. We usually see Grandpa basically telling the story of Frozen, sort of recapping it. And then we have an adorable little troll saying, like, have fun seeing Elsa, or tell Elsa I said hi, or something to that extent.
Yes.
And so here we replaced, we moved Grandpa. We moved Grandpa off to the side, and he's replacing the little troll. And then in Grandpa's usual spot, we have an animatronic of Kristoff, and he's singing the Flemingard, the Flemingrad. Yeah, the Ballad of Flemingrad. And also, we have a really funny animation. There's the actual statue of Flemingrad right in front of him, and we have a really funny animation where the animatronic leans down to lick Flemingrad, and then he looks up at the audience, and he's got the beard full of grass, and he's like, "All right, who wants to go next?" Looking directly at the audience as they're passing by.
Small correction: Flemmy the fungus troll.
Flemmy the fungus troll.
Yeah, it's like the Frosty the Snowman of the trolls. It's the gag there. So it's. But yeah,
folks.
So again, as myself included, I'd be like, "Oh my god, do we really need this? See that?" Ugh. Anyway, so the audience is probably repelled by that, or the kid's like, gross, cool. Grandpa on the side, basically where the little troll is, and Grandpa was saying, but basically the idea is to somehow rework the basically when they project the ending of Frozen on the little stone, little magic stone in the ride, we repurpose that into kind of a stew pot, because we kind of two birds with one stone here, where Grandpa. The idea is Grandpa off to the side with this thing. He's making the stew, which is basically you make the stew from this Flemmy the fungus troll statue, and Grandpa he's making the stew, and he's like throwing the stuff, and the stuff's being thrown into the projected screen, and the projected screen's making the shape of Olaf's face, as it does in Olaf's Frozen Adventure. It's kind of making like a little Olaf face. Like letters or something, like alphabet soup or something. It's kind of like one of those things. And basically, and Grandpa off to the side where little troll's telling you, like, "Hey, say hi to Elsa for me." Grandpa telling you, "Have some stew before you see Elsa." Yeah. All right. So as we're on our way,
So then we have the lift hill, which usually has the opening hymn, and we see the ice palace. But instead, we've replaced the opening hymn with a soft instrumental version of the ringing in the bell song. It's similar to the reprise of that song, Dragon, but it's kind of like a little bit more triumphant and hopeful. You know, you get basically to sum it up, using my terrible, terrible humming skills. It's basically like a da 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 da. I'm terribly sorry for
Exactly.
that.
Something like that.
Pretty
Yeah.
much, pretty much. And then very simply, replacing the ice castle is going to be a forced perspective miniature model of the ice Christmas tree, which will be a big set piece later on.
Exactly. That's kind of our big kind of swap out for the big ice castle. Was kind of our giant, kind of the big ice tree with the lanterns and everything. But right now it's just you see like a little peek of it here.
Uh-huh. All
All right.
right. Next, you want to take us through it?
Yes. Okay. So we kind of pass through. It's the section where Olaf's figure skating, right? In the ride itself.
Yeah, in the ride itself. This is the figure skating scene. Yes.
Yes, in the ride itself, you'll remember like Olaf just kind of figure skating, having a good time and such. So what we kind of done here is kind of done a little bit more horrific version of it here, where Olaf is it's kind of the sad harrowing part of Olaf's Frozen Adventure, where again, even not knowing all the ins and outs of what exactly this means, like okay, Olaf is getting into shenanigans where he's just kind of he's going back and forth panicking because the slave traditions is catching fire and his among this, we see his fruitcake being taken by a hawk. The idea is like I presume the idea is like Olaf is like the idea is like I guess to the side. I'm just going to correct me if this doesn't sound right, but I would imagine the sleigh is off to the side, kind of like
Yeah, the sleigh's kind of off to the side. Yeah.
like catching fire, like kind of in disarray, and Olaf's running back and forth chasing a hawk. Who, like you can see kind of like on like sort
Yeah,
of like
instead of ice skating, we use the same animatronic technology that makes him ice skate. But instead of ice skating, he's just kind of like running back and forth on the same pattern.
And the general way to describe it is like up in the ceiling, there's like kind of like a giant circle, like a giant cog, and like the hawk is like on the cog, and it's basically kind of going. You can see it like making off with like kind of in a sweeping motion, making off with the fruitcake. Like it's kind of like it's
Uh-huh.
disappearing into the sky. Like you'd only see like kind of go from like left to right
It
up.
basically uses the same effect if you've ever been on Finding Nemo when the anglerfish is actually working on that ride,
Sure.
where the anglerfish kind of swoops down and then kind of retreats back into the darkness.
Yeah, kind of like a vaguely like a Peter Pan's Magic Flight kind of
Uh-huh.
feel to it. But again, I think his description's more apt. Anyway,
Yes,
so
yes.
so as this happens, and of course we pan over to see Anna and Kristoff like we do in the actual ride. Only difference is we see Anna, Kristoff, and Sven here, and basically this is kind of like again it's kind of imagine we're kind of fast forwarding to kind of the flag kind of the tentpole moments from a Lost Frozen Adventure here, and we're kind of summarizing it. So this is kind of an original scene right here. This is
Uh-huh.
Anna and Kristoff reassuring Olaf that everything's going to be okay. And again, we're kind of teeing up like kind of the heart of the story without kind of going through every story beat where we see Anna in her traditional garb. So again, if you've seen the thing, you kind of know where it's going. She's in the garb traditions that she has found in
And
the attic.
I really want a full blown animatronic of this, like this exact Anna design.
And again, this is like a little Easter egg. So if you've seen it, you know exactly what they know and Olaf doesn't. But if you don't, you're in the dark as well as Olaf here. That's why Anna's dressed in her kind of her childhood traditions of like the dragon feet, the sorcerer's cape, and the Viking crown.
Uh-huh.
So at the end of it, she's dressed in this. We have kind of Kristoff to the side there, and we have Sven, who ordinarily in the ride has his tongue stuck to a nice thing, kind of a Christmas story esque kind of visual in itself. And then what we've done here is there's a little visual gag we're trying to kind of approximate here, where you'll see a candy cane, like one of Olaf's candy canes, on the ground. And the idea is like Sven on his way to lick it, he missed and he's stuck there. You see like his eyes kind of looking at the candy cane on the fleet. Either you get it or you don't. If you look closely on the ground, it's like, oh look, candy cane. He was trying to lick a candy cane. He got stuck. Oh, silly Sven. Oh, but again, the heart of this thing right now is as you're going through, you see, Alan and Kristoff are reassuring kind of a sad Olaf, like off to the side, panicking. Says, "Oh, don't worry, Olaf. We have an even better tradition to share with Elsa. Come along."
Uh-huh.
All right, so then we come.
And then breaks the fourth wall, like where Kristoff could look at us and be like, "You guys are coming too, right?"
Yeah, I like that. All right.
Because the actual ride breaks the fourth wall like that a little bit, where Kristoff's like, Are you guys ready to see Elsa?" And Anna's like, "They were born ready."
Good idea. I like that. Chris was saying,
Okay.
"You guys coming along too?" There you go. All right, so then we make our way to a big set piece, to a big kind of
this is the big set piece in both the ride and the overlay for sure.
Of course, this is yes. So ordinarily, this is kind of the let it go, the big money kind of let it go segment of it all. We see like you're going to the ride, you're expecting to see Elsa like welcome you, and of course she's going to sing kind of her landmark song, "Let It Go." But in this case, we used the landmark song from Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which is my favorite in that thing. Because don't get me wrong, that time of year is great, and it's a fantastically animated sequence. But again, the heart and soul of the whole thing, kind of the Charlie Brown tree of it all, no pun intended, is "When We're Together." Da, 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 da. It's delightful. It really is. It's uplifting. It's the heart of the whole thing. So. Olaf, he's panicking, and the big tradition, again, they're not really explicitly saying it, but as you're visually going to see in the next scene, and we'll get there. The point is, again, we're kind of getting you to that realization where we see Elsa with the big tree kind of lit up. Now it's lit up, so that's the idea. Like behind her, in kind of like a perspective shot of some variety, like in the background behind her, you'd see the tree being lit up and everything with the lanterns, and and she's there and kind of welcome as she begins the song, which kind of hits that wonderful crescendo. "When we're together," dun, 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 and basically it's like the big
when it hits the crescendo, that's the moment where the boat transitions from forward to backwards, and then on a big crescendo, we also when we go backwards, one of my favorite effects that I came up with is the basically I'm kind of borrowing from what I'm expecting Mickey's Runaway Railway to be like with the 2D 3D stuff, and I'm envisioning using that same kind of 2D 3D technology. I'm envisioning that ice pathway that Elsa makes in that song that kind of leads them back to the town or whatever. That kind of pops up and sort of like literally follows the boat as we're going backwards.
Yes, and if you want to add this to it, I just came up with this on the fly myself here. Like it's kind of like how Elsa kind of levitates Olaf with her magic. So that's what she's using to push us back a little bit as well. If you want to, again, there's nothing really to show that. The point is, but yeah,
no, I mean that totally works because that's kind of what's implied is going on in the original ride as well.
Sure. So like the ice pathways are the great ice pathways are being formed, again Mickey and Minnie style, and on the left you have like kind of the Aurora Borealis, Northern Lights, all that. You have that they have that on the left, and on the right you kind of see the ice table being formed, like the townspeople kind of putting food on the table and everything, like the hot cocoas, everything kind of like the nice. Basically, we're getting to like the big kind of nice kind of the big surprise moment that went wrong at the start of Olaf's Frozen Adventure done right at the end, which is kind of how that goes. So again, we're kind of filling in the blanks for Olaf's Frozen Adventure, but kind of in a restructured sort of like kind of it's more of a methodical way, I guess. It's kind of like you're feeling it more than you're kind of like seeing it kind of applied linear.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good way to put it. And it is definitely restructured because the first song in Olaf Frozen Adventure is the last song in this. So
which is kind of
it's not just telling.
Kind of proud of that one, yeah. All right, so again, we can only show so much of the big tree. And we've seen it a couple times in the ride. So what we do is we were kind of outstood, and kind of we go kind of past that little clearing. And of course, as the ride goes, we can cut past this little clearing, and who's in that little clearing?
Marshmallow.
Yeah, Marshmallow and the Snow Minis. Marshmallow and the Snow Minis. No, but
God.
Yes, the good old snowman. Again, kind of an. If you really think about it, we've kind of amalgamated all three of the Frozen things. We have the Frozen movie with Marshmallow. We have the Snow Minis with Frozen Fever. And now we have Olaf's Frozen Adventure with what's about to follow.
If only
Basically,
we could work in something. If only we could work in something from Once Upon a Time.
oh my god, I'd love to do that. Yeah. Say what you will. Once upon a time, my god, I love that first half of season four. Yeah, it's good. Oh no, the seasons
It was fun. It was fun.
Antique. I think you'd like the early seasons of Once Upon the first two, so at least the first season. You really, at one point, you got to check out
I
that
don't
first
doubt
season.
it. I don't doubt it.
So Marshmallow and the Snow Minis, they're decorating a regular, a reasonably sized tree. Maybe about half the size as Marshmallow. I don't know, like a tree.
Uh-huh.
And basically a scaled down version of the big tree that Elsa made. It's kind of a nice, humble little version of a nice tree, kind of like it's basically the Charlie Brown version of the Elsa tree by comparison.
Uh-huh.
And again, for anyone who just has not been following along, anyone who hasn't seen it, they're going to at least get a glimpse of what the idea is behind Olaf's Frozen Adventure, where they're decorating the tree with like a bunch of Olaf, basically all the kind of the cards and drawings and little kind of stuffed toys that Anna and Elsa had made for each other throughout the years as part of their tradition. Which, of course, the heart of Olaf's Frozen Adventure, by the way, big spoilers, is that Olaf was the tradition that even while the sisters were separated all those years, brought them together and basically have this little box full of those things. And the idea is they're using the rest of the contents of that box to decorate a smaller tree. So the little snow minis are hanging it like ornaments. Maybe they're on a few little platforms, kind of cutesy little, like they look like ornaments on a tree
Uh-huh.
with other Olaf things, kind of nice there. And Marshmallow is lifting a little Olaf. Basically, he's lifting Olaf to put the star on the tree because realistically we can't do that with the giant kind of scale trees. We're going to do that on a small of a scale where Marshmallow is lifting him up to put the star on the tree, kind of like how in the actual special Elsa floats him up to put it on the huge tree. So it's making it spectacular in another way where we didn't have Marshmallow in that special. Now we've kind of worked him in to some venue, so we're kind of compensating for the lack of spectacle with kind of like more reasonable spectacle.
Yeah, sure, sure.
All right.
Which I gotta say, I'm proud that's another thing we kind of added here is we kind of retroactively fit in Grand Pebble and Marshmallow into Olaf's Frozen Adventure.
And the snow minis.
Yeah, yeah. All right, getting to the final scene here. We wrap this up pretty quickly. Okay, so the final scene is very simple. We have I don't think we should have Kristoff in this final scene. It's just like this is the only picture of the bell I could find. You agree on that?
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. It's just kind of like just basically what I need you to imagine here is just imagine like right behind, like right next to where either behind the sisters or right next to where Anna is. There's the Yule belt around there. Okay, essentially
Uh-huh.
it's on that platform somewhere, and the sisters are there, and they're in their not their spring regalia, but they're in the awesome kind of winter regalia that they wear in Olaf's Frozen Adventure. The really cool looking outfits they have there. So basically, it's pretty straightforward. What you see is what you get. Just imagine a big Yule Bell and Christmas attire in this scene. So
Uh-huh.
the idea is, so the ride ends with Anna and Elsa like welcome saying goodbye to you and kind of welcoming you there and all that sort of stuff. And here what we've done is it's the final scene where they're singing the Yule Bell song. We've kind of heard it. We've had it teased up for the rest of things. We have kind of a piece of that being said, I guess. The whole time to ring in the season, that sort
Uh-huh.
of thing. Anyway, so let's see. So as they're basically talking about there's the
Ringing
Yule.
in the season, just like I do like the symmetry of that dragon. That the last thing you see in the is what the title of the ride is based off of.
So basically, as they're singing like the last triumphant notes of ringing the season, the bell is actually ringing. It's back and forth. Either they're both like maybe if there's any motion added to them, like they're pulling the rope that rings the bell. Maybe if we can do
Uh-huh.
that. Otherwise, just the bell's ringing. And off to the side, they're like right before you get to that point, you have Olaf on the other side, like a little triumphant note. Then the bell ringing, like the bell rings like the last thing in the ride, but you have Olaf there in a bush somewhere finding the fruitcake. Like, oh look, the fruitcake!
It's saved.
It's saved. Then we cut to them like they're singing they're finishing the song. The big nose, the bell rings, and maybe you hear as you leave the ride, you hear them say goodbye, happy holidays. Maybe something like that. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And yeah, that's the ride.
All right. I'll let you kind of take the lead on the merchandise dragon. Should I switch over the image?
Uh, in 1 second. So get to the after show. You get on board the ride. It kind of takes you to, I believe, the Wandering Reindeer gift shop.
Uh huh.
And the Wandering Reindeer gift shop. Now, just kind of add to what I presume it has already, because I know there's like Frozen. There's some sort of gift shop over there where they have like a lot of frozen merchandise and such. So basically, it's going to add to that and kind of let's kind of sweeten the pot a little bit. So let's go to the Wandering Reindeer gift shop. And we're going to find a slathering of merchandise. Let's see what that looks like. A little slathering of merchandise. Start with the first one. So in this slathering of merchandise, you're going to have things like, you're not going to see everything here, but I did give you a few of the good visuals here. So you have CDs and DVDs of Olaf's Frozen Adventure, the original Frozen movie, the sing-along version, Frozen Fever, like basically all Frozen. Then you're going to see they're going to include some stuff you could find at the Disney store, like there is some, I've seen a few things, and like you get a little sampling right here of like there are some seasonal plush Olafs of like Olaf with the candy cane for the nose, and there's some variations of Olaf like fully wrapped up in like the scarves and everything. And there's a lot of really cool. Some talk, some don't. You have all sorts of versions of the Olaf plush. Like that, there's some with interchangeable parts, kind of like a Mr. Potato Head, but a snowman. So you get options. Is what I'm saying. Let's see. So beyond that, you have my favorite thing, which I looked into, which is actually a thing you can find. So this, what you see here, is a little adorable, because Tiki and I were actually speculating during the seasonal shenanigans on Olaf's Frozen Adventure, uh, if they made Sir Jorgen Bjorgen, and they did, and he's right there. They actually make plush Sir Jorgen Bjorgens, which were Elsa's little plush pal she talked to when she was lonely for those years growing up. He was a good listener. It's a heartbreakingly yet beautiful line that she has in that. So you have like little Sir Jorgen Bjorgens. You got the little plush, cats in the knitted sweaters and socks and everything. You get Anna and Elsa dolls in their fashionable kind of Christmassy attire. Got storybooks. You got, let me see, run down anything. Okay, then we have some Funko.
Oaken towels.
Yeah, yes. You got Oaken towels. You got Olaf's candy canes, like basically candy canes colored like the nose. You have chocolate in the shape of Anna and Elsa. And, like one of those like themed chocolates, like they're molded in the shape of the three characters, like hanging around together or something, or vice versa. Like,
really quick, Dragon, really quick before you mention the cookies. I think the cookies in the shape of Norway should definitely be sold at the bakery instead of the gift shop.
Sure. I mean, that's it. I'm down for that. Yeah. Yeah, you have basically cookies in the shape of Norway, which is pretty like individually wrapped cookies. I'd imagine, maybe wrapped in cellophane or something. I don't know how they'd be packaged, but I imagine something like that. Maybe you can get like bigger ones in the bakery though, like ones in like a box or something. I don't know.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, okay. So in the gift shop, we could have the cellophane wrapped ones.
Yeah.
And then the bakery, we'd have like the fresh baked ones, and we could even get maybe we could even get one that's like, if not as full size as we see in the movie, at least ones that like take up a whole cookie tray.
Yeah, sure, that sounds cool.
Like the famous like Instagram desserts that Disney goes for, the oversized desserts.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. All right, let's see. So, okay, now go to the next image. Of course, I want to advocate some Funko Pops, which they do make some Frozen Funko Pops, and specifically, they have made this one. So I imagine this one would definitely be sold in the Disney parks. You'd have Olaf with the kittens. You'd probably have some stuff from Frozen Fever and the original Frozen movies. So we had Frozen Pops, and then you'd have let's go to the next image. You'd have these things called Cos Babies. Now, Cos Babies are kind of I believe it's a division of Hot Toys, and they make these little kind of cutesy, almost anime-eye versions of characters. Like there's some Cos Babies of Deadpool, the Marvel characters, of like some things from Infinity War, and they have made them for Frozen, but specifically for Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which would look something along the lines of Anna, Elsa, and Olaf. Which, yeah, will look really neat. Right. Also, real quick, there you'd have again kind of Charlie Brown sized trees for your home. Basically, kind of like a plastic, kind of I guess kind of a clear kind of plastic see-through version of the ice tree that Elsa makes, but literally kind of one of those Charlie Brown kind of tchotchke sized trees. Like it's like maybe 12 inches tall, has like red plastic LED lanterns you could kind of place on the thing and hang, and you could probably buy. Hopefully, you could buy from the Disney store or something. Like if they don't make this, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. What I was thinking of is here's what you do. So you could have the straightforward version, which is these it's a plastic tree with LED lanterns. Like that's how it comes. But if you wanted to kind of plus it, they do have these figurine sets you can actually buy at the Disney store now, which has like Olaf's Frozen Adventure with Anna, Kristoff, and Sven, and all the other characters, and you could place those on the tree. And basically, if you were to buy that set, you'd have like these little kind of these little platforms where you could put the lights, and you could put figurines along with the lights on there as well. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff like that. We're gonna circle back to the Cos babies, I think. But before we do that, let me tell you about some other cool stuff we have. So again, there's an area around here. I don't know if it's in the kind of the Wandering Reindeer establishment or not, but around here, around the Norway section, you have a lot of again a celebration of Norway culture. And again, fitting into the premise of this attraction, fitting into the premise of the whole Olaf's Frozen Adventure and kind of the informative kind of element of Epcot, they have these display cases that basically show wardrobe and little models of things that are actual Norway culture that also correlate with Frozen. So I figured we'd add to that, or maybe switch out a few things in that section where there's like a small like these small models. So like for one of these small models, you'd have like a gingerbread castle, like the awesome gingerbread castle that is that Anna, Elsa, and Olaf are decorating at the start of Olaf's Frozen Adventure. Yeah.
Hey, sorry about that. My freaking whole web browser crashed. If you want to share an image of what I'd probably just screen share it myself because it'll be a little time consuming to get back to it.
Right. I was going to show the Cos baby thing if I could. Let me see if I can. 1 second. All right. Well, I was telling you about the little models. What are the little models like at the Norway Pavilion? Like, what does it look like?
The models?
Yes, the little models in the Norway culture stuff, like the guy dressed up like Kristoff and everything there.
Oh, unfortunately, I never got a chance to do any of that. I mostly spent my time in the bakery and then looking at the exteriors.
All right, so I sent something in the.
Really tell you.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't really tell you because I didn't really go inside there. It's something I always wanted to make a point to do, but I never got around to it.
Yeah.
I know that every country has some sort of mini museum like that, though.
Seriously, did you want to screen share it or
No, if you don't mind, it'd just be too time consuming for me to screen share it.
All right, just give one moment then. Just,
okay. Sorry, folks, it was running so smoothly.
Yes. Here we go. Okay, I got it. All right, are you seeing it?
1 sec. Yeah, hold on. There we go.
So yes, that's the Cos baby thing I was talking about right there.
All right. Also, Dragon, I feel like we should have the kittens in the ride somewhere. What if they're just kind of hanging out with the snow minis?
Yeah, that'd be neat. Yeah.
Just the kittens and the jammies.
Right. So
let's go back to the root image really quick.
Sure. So I can I'll stop sharing.
Get out of here.
So yeah, so again, essentially what I was I was talking about the gingerbread castle too. So you'd have the gingerbread castle and basically kind of a little history of the of the various holidays, basically kind of explain the traditions and everything. Kind of the educational segment of the Norway Pavilion is what I was getting in kind of an extraneous way there. So basically, all the deep cut stuff that's in the special that you would correlate to what Epcot's all about and what that section's all about. You know?
Oh, for sure. All right, any final thoughts on this, Dragon?
Well, I mean, it's pretty, I think it's pretty straightforward, and it would make sense for an overlay. So I think it's a pretty successful pitch. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty proud of it, Dragon. Like I said, I'm just glad that I gained this newfound appreciation for the ride itself. I really am. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like it'd be something that'd be really easy to do because basically it's kind of just a matter of swapping out some of the costumes on the animatronics and swapping out the music and swapping out some of the background stuff. Like it'd be a pretty simple overlay. And I think if they were to do something like this, I feel like it'd probably garner some more goodwill towards Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which, as we talked about with the retrospective for that, is kind of in this unfortunate space where there's still some negative connotations behind that because of the unfortunate circumstance of putting it next to Coco, which never should have happened. But yeah, as a whole, Dragon, I gotta say, I really do think we cracked this one out of the park. I think the pacing is pretty on point and perfect. I really like the fact that it's not just a beat by beat retelling. We change some of the order of the scenes around. We include a couple characters that weren't in Olaf's Frozen Adventure, but would fit in really naturally to the flow of everything. I think just overall, we did a killer job here.
All right.
All right. So
well, kids. Well, kids, time to dash away, dash away, dash away all. But as we wave goodbye, don't you cry. We'll be back again next time
with even more seasonal shenanigans.
La 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 la.
Have you tried the school bread?